You folks have been listening to the New Music Alliance Radio Hour. You just heard Get After It by Brother Other, and before that, a song by our special guest himself, Stephen Peter Rodgers, called Stay You. Before we talk about your tune, let's talk a little bit about this song by Brother Other. Cool name. I almost said it backwards, but I love it. From Litchfield County in Connecticut. This is a cool tune. Stellar harmonies. I love their origin story of just being a couple soccer dads who, met at their kids' game and found out that their music jived well. And I always love hearing those background stories to how folks come into being. But this tune is this was a really beautiful song. What do you want to say about this guy?
Yeah, I think so too. When they approached me about coming in to record, I didn't really know what to expect, although I've seen them, a few times and really love them as guys. And, I think, one, if not both of them used to come see my band when they were kids, something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was really cool about this session is that, one of their sons played drums on this tune, which is great. And, he's, a young teenager and just, came in and just killed it, did the greatest job, and I love when, parents inspire their kids, to follow along in their creative paths, so.
Yeah.
So Brother Other, I just want to mention, when you mentioned the two of them, it's Matthew Sackerman and Paul Morrow.
Yep, correct. Yeah, and it was Matthew's son that played the drums on this. And then, they had a guitar player friend who's super wacky, play a whole bunch of, crazy experimental guitar stuff on there. They had me play some pedal steel, I think. And, as far as this track goes, I just thought it was really great. And honestly, there's about 50 other songs by a whole bunch of different artists that I work with that I wish I could play today because, it's so hard. I know we even cut a few, so, that we weren't able to fit time wise. And,
Well, Steve, you'll be back with more tunes. So
yeah,
don't you worry. We'll be able to get a lot of those other artists
sure you
on
guys
as well.
from artists as they come. There's somebody that's been working on the record for a long time here is Terry LaChance, who just, does a lot for the Connecticut music scene, the open mic scene, and especially for newer artists. And she runs around and I think she's at a show 5 nights a week. I wish I could play one of hers. I wish I could play some Kayla Farnham stuff. She, she's been in here a lot this year and so on and so forth and so on and so forth.
A lot of these artists, I love their humble beginnings and I love hearing their stories. And, it should inspire anyone out there who is more of a hobbyist, perhaps. And, I'm an open mic host as well up in Western Mass. And I hope people get inspired to, find other like-minded folk at these open mics or elsewhere and see where it can lead. Because sometimes it can lead to some really special music being made like this tune.
Yeah. For sure. I wish I could mention all my clients by name right now, but they, I really am thankful that so many good-hearted, kind people come through my door. There's, there's been a few, cases that might be an exception to that rule, but, everybody, who comes through, they all have like a message to share. It's not, just like, baby, this cute girl, that thing, you know what I mean?
There's substance.
Yeah, there's substance, and I gravitate towards artists with substance and harmonies and creative ideas.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your tune, Steve. Stay You, and this tune. Well, I ought to mention that Steve, you've been successful in many. You've had several other albums out, and you were a winner of one of our Valley Music Showcase events.
Yeah, Steve, you and I share that in common, actually.
Oh, you look familiar somehow.
Well, I was kind of in the background for mine. It was with a band called Chakazoba, but I was playing percussion.
Okay, all right.
And you're such a great storyteller, and you have such a rich and comforting voice. It just makes listeners feel good just listening to your voice. But I'm really curious to find out more about sort of the song and as you sort of talk throughout it, as you fight to stay you. Tell us a little bit more about that and the whole origin of that tune.
Sure. Well, first of all, to write that tune, I had to do a lot of life living uh, you don't just come and sort of like, write a song like that if haven't been writing songs too long, I guess.
Mm.
But I wrote and recorded the song within a 5 hour period, and I mixed it later on and may have added a few things. But I often wake up quite early in the morning, 5:30. I watch the sunrise most days, and I spend a lot of time sort of feeding my birds and hanging out with feeding the birds in the backyard and hanging out with my dogs. And I do a lot of thinking and writing, and melodies are always flowing through my head. And so that was just a song that kind of really fell out, pen and paper, in less than 20 minutes. I mean, it was just like there, all of a sudden. And I think, the sort of the guitar picking pattern that it went along with, was something I was probably, fumbling around with for a couple of weeks before it, as I sort of sit on the couch with my wife at night, talking about life. I usually have a guitar in my hand as well. As far as where that song comes from, I spent the last 20 years up until about 8 months ago, working as a music director in various different churches. And some of those churches have been really wonderful, open-minded, accepting of all people kind of churches. And some of them have not. And one of them I was at for a very long stretch, where, basically who I was as a musician and artist wasn't appreciated by the person who was, sort of like my boss there. And also we had very different views about the world and what it means, to sort of be called a Christian. And so, that job abruptly came to an end for me at one point. But while I was in it, I felt like I had to sort of be somebody else in order to keep that job. And it was so conflicting for me, and it sort of ate me up inside. And I'll tell you, once I wasn't there anymore, my whole life felt free. I felt like I had been released from some sort of like invisible prison or something. I don't know. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I think this story that you're telling is very relatable to a lot of people in this country and in the world right now, where they feel disillusioned by some of the old guard and the way they view things. And this song really is important, I think, in a time where not just within our organized religions and other institutions, but also in a world of, increasing information being thrown at us all the time, to remember why, what's important, and to remember that we need to stay true to who we are, that we need to, find some of those answers maybe from within instead of without. And yeah, I was really moved by this tune, Steve. So I'm glad we get to talk about it last in this show
Thank,
today, because it was a good one. And
thank you so much. It sounds like you and I should hang out together and play some.
sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay.
Maybe in your studio.
Yeah, sure. We can do it here. And, I also have a bunch of friends up that way in the East Hampton area. I don't know if you know Dan from the Prindle School, and
Oh yeah.
and Nate Christie, who ran a studio in his place. I had like a whole bunch of people that I was playing with up in East Hampton. I had a band in East Hampton and a band in Connecticut. It just made life
Yeah.
a lot easier, and I got to play with a lot of my friends. So,
Well, this tune, I think a lot of other musicians, and not just musicians, but a lot of listeners out there can really take to heart, and I think they'll all appreciate, that message that you give here. So,
well, thank you so much.
thank you for doing that for everyone.
Well, I'm the one who feels lucky to be able to still do it.
Well, thank you for visiting with us, and we hope you enjoyed some great original music from Western New England artists. And I'm Mark Sherry, here this week with Tobey LaRoche and Stephen Peter Rodgers, who is the owner of Tiny Bunker Studios. And we've been playing your music that you've recorded with so many great artists. And thank you so much for bringing that to us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and much love to you guys.
So the New Music Alliance Radio Hour is brought to you by the New Music Alliance, a 501c3 nonprofit whose mission is to assist and advance the careers of talented, creative local musicians who write original music. and to promote the extended Western New England area as a destination for original music writing, production, and performances.
If you like what we're doing here on the show, we hope you'll tell your friends about it. And as silly as it seems, it means a lot for you to go and like the New Music Alliance and the Radio Hour on our Facebook pages. And don't forget to check out our website, newmusicalliance.org, where you'll find the extraordinary Essential Western New England Songbook. It is a listenable anthology of many of the best songs ever written by artists from Western New England. And while you're there, if you support the New Music Alliance's mission, we would truly appreciate you making a donation or becoming a member or a sponsor.
And if you're a local Western New England musician who would like to have your original music considered to be on our show, send links to your songs to newmusicalliance@gmail.com. And join us next week for more great tunes from Western New England artists. And until next week, please stay safe and keep on listening
to original local music. And let's have Charles and Khalif Neville take us out today with African Eyes.